Welcome to the BioPharma Business Intelligence Unit, where symbolic integrity meets strategic clarity. At BBIU, we go beyond the headlines to decode the structural forces behind global biopharma, AI, and economic realignment. If you value precision, verification, and symbolic depth, this channel is for you. Subscribe now to access our weekly briefings, dossiers, and intelligence reports, and consider joining our institutional tier to unlock early warning systems, custom metrics, and exclusive strategic insight. You're not just listening, you're entering the future of epistemic intelligence. www.biopharmabusinessintelligenceunit.com.
Perceived value, price, and the global marketing divide, China, Korea, and USA, EU. September 8th, one introduction. In every industry, biopharma, technology, devices, or consumer goods, companies face the same central question. How do customers perceive value? Too often, employees and managers attempt to reduce this complex equation to a single lever: price. Lowering price is seen as the fastest and simplest way to boost perceived value and win customers. Yet this shortcut comes at a high cost. In the short term, it may generate sales, but in the medium and long term, it erodes margins, brand equity, innovation, and ultimately trust. This trap is universal, but the consequences vary depending on product type, one-time use versus continuous use, and the geographic marketing culture of the seller, China, Korea, or the USA and EU. Number 2, perceived value. More than price. Perceived value can be expressed as a simple relationship. Perceived value equals perceived benefits minus perceived costs. Customers calculate this balance not only rationally, but across multiple dimensions: functional benefits, performance, quality, reliability, and safety. Emotional benefits: trust, prestige, and assurance of long-term support. Contextual factors: comparisons with competitors, reputation of the brand, and recommendations from peers or authorities. When employees equate perceived value with price alone, they ignore that customers evaluate products across functional, emotional, and symbolic layers of meaning. 3. The price-only switch. Consequences. When price becomes the only lever, the trajectory is predictable. Medium-term consequences. Margins erode as every competitor undercuts the next. Customers develop only transactional loyalty, switching instantly for cheaper alternatives. Innovation slows as there is no room to reinvest. Long-term consequences. Products are commoditized, losing all differentiation. The company's reputation shifts from trusted to cheap. Survival depends solely on cost structures, not value creation. This is the commodity trap, a downward spiral from which very few companies escape. 4. Product type matters. One-time use versus continuous use. The punishment for relying solely on price differs dramatically between consumables and devices or machinery. Consumables or one-time use products. Examples include medical supplies, syringes, reagents, and generic drugs. Customers purchase frequently, compare constantly, and switch easily. Price-only competition leads to immediate margin erosion. Survivors are only those with extreme economies of scale. Devices and machinery or continuous use products. Examples include diagnostic machines, hospital equipment, and laboratory devices. Customers evaluate based on total cost of ownership, purchase, maintenance, and downtime risk. Price may win the initial sale, but poor service or reliability destroys value perception over time. The company loses not through instant price wars, but through erosion of trust and reputation. Key difference. For consumables, the punishment for a price-only strategy is instant, low margins. For devices, the punishment is delayed but severe, loss of trust and lost future sales. 5. After-sales service. The critical divider. Customers know that price is never the full story. What happens after the sale determines real value, especially in continuous use products. China customer perception. If something breaks, there is no real support. Reality. Spare parts are limited, warranties are difficult to enforce, and service is often non-existent. Result: acceptable for consumables, but catastrophic for devices. Korea customer perception. Support exists, but not always at a global standard. Reality: generally reliable service, but global coverage is uneven. Spare parts can be delayed. Result: effective when products are robust, risky when intensive support is required. USA and EU customer perception. I pay more, but I am covered. Reality: strong global service networks, spare parts pipelines, preventive maintenance contracts, technical training, and certification. Result: trust is reinforced even if products fail because support validates the premium price. 6. Marketing models. 3 global approaches. The marketing approach of each region reflects its structural strengths and weaknesses. China, transactional marketing, central lever, price and speed. Narrative, the same product as the West, but cheaper. Tactics, mass catalogs, trade fairs, B2B platforms, and low emphasis on brand building. Weakness, little symbolic capital, poor resonance in high-risk industries like biopharma or advanced devices. Korea, balanced marketing central lever, competitive price combined with improved quality. Narrative, better than China, more accessible than USA or EU. Tactics, leverage K-Tech or K-Bio branding, trade fairs, and case studies like Samsung, Hyundai, and Celltrion as anchors of credibility. Weakness, limited symbolic power globally, often perceived as the middle option. USA and EU, symbolic marketing central lever, innovation, trust, and brand authority. Narrative, you pay more but you buy proven quality and global support. Tactics, peer-reviewed publications, regulatory approvals, key opinion leader endorsements, and global branding campaigns. Weakness, high costs, limited competitiveness in purely price-sensitive markets. 7. Integrated BBIU perspective. Each block activates a different driver of perceived value. China, price equals value. Customers accept the absence of support as the trade-off. Korea, a hybrid model, gains credibility as a middle power between China's cost advantage and the USA or EU's symbolic authority. USA and EU, brand and trust. Customers pay for reliability, global networks, and long-term assurance. In consumables, China dominates. Korea competes in niches. USA and EU only win where strict regulatory standards require them. In devices and machinery, USA and EU dominate through after-sales and symbolic trust. Korea is competitive. China struggles to overcome credibility deficits. 8. Personal experience. Building value beyond price. In every company where I worked, I saw the same temptation. Employees and distributors wanted to use price as the only lever to influence customers. My approach was different. I believed that true value had to be built across education, service, communication, and authority. Over the years, this philosophy took shape in several concrete actions. 1. Localization and education of clinical staff. All product materials were translated into the local language of each territory. Beyond translation, I organized on-site training events for doctors and clinical personnel. These sessions were not only technical demonstrations, but also opportunities to build relationships and trust. By investing in the knowledge of those who actually use the products, uncertainty was replaced by confidence. The brand was no longer perceived as foreign. It became locally relevant and respected. 2. Direct engagement through digital channels. I personally created and managed Facebook pages for the companies I represented. On these channels, I regularly published educational content, updates from medical events, and material designed to retain audience attention. This was not one-way promotion. It created a feedback loop from the field, showing us what worked, what created confusion, and what required adjustment. The result was a brand image that was approachable, transparent, and modern, a rarity in biopharma at the time. 3. Strengthening after-sales service. A product's value does not end at the moment of purchase. For devices and machinery, after-sales support defines whether customers see a company as reliable or risky. I worked to educate distributor after-sales engineers through annual training sessions, raising their technical capacity. At the same time, I implemented a spare parts stock system, ensuring that the most frequently needed components were available based on the installed base in each country. This reduced downtime for critical equipment to a maximum of 2 weeks. Customers perceived this as a mark of quality. They were not just buying a product, but joining a system that would not abandon them. 4. Acting as a key opinion leader, or KOL. Finally, I went beyond local markets by participating as a speaker and trainer at international medical congresses. I presented evidence, gave lectures, and conducted hands-on workshops. By standing on stage as a KOL, I was not only promoting a product, but also building scientific credibility for the company itself. This visibility and prestige could never be achieved through discount-driven tactics. Doctors, distributors, and competitors recognized that the brand was not simply selling, it was leading and teaching. The consequences. These actions consistently reshaped how customers perceived value. Doctors and clinical staff associated the brand with knowledge and reliability, not risk. Digital presence made the brand approachable and modern, open to dialogue. After-sales systems converted potential frustrations into evidence of professionalism. International Congress participation elevated the company's image into the realm of scientific authority. Together, these pillars created a brand identity rooted in trust, service, and education, proving that long-term success comes not from lowering prices, but from building value in every layer of the customer experience. 9. Conclusion and BBIU insight. The evidence is clear. Reducing perceived value to price alone leads to erosion of margins of trust of identity. Whether in consumables or in complex machinery, whether in China, Korea, or the USA or EU, the principle holds. Price is only one switch, not the entire system. The companies that consistently win are those that build multi-layered value, functional value through robust products and services, emotional value through trust and responsiveness, symbolic value through authority, branding, and leadership. BBIU Insight companies that invest in education, communication, and after-sales systems consistently outperform those that rely solely on price. This pattern holds across geographies and product types, from consumables to complex medical devices. Crucially, higher perceived value gives firms the ability to correct their pricing mid-term, capturing sustainable margins, rather than depending on constant discounts to reach quarterly sales targets. Annex Cross-Industry Case Studies. Annex Cross-Industry Case Studies 1. Failure Case, Boeing 737 MAX, Aerospace. Context: launched as a cost-efficient upgrade to compete with Airbus A320neo. Boeing marketed the aircraft as a quick, inexpensive solution for airlines with minimal retraining for pilots. Initial perceived value: promised lower operating costs, faster adoption, and competitive pricing. Reality: after launch, 2 fatal crashes revealed flaws in the MCAS system. Investigations showed that shortcuts were taken to reduce costs and speed approvals, undermining safety. Outcome: global grounding of the fleet, billions in losses, reputational collapse. Airlines and passengers lost trust, showing that low training costs and easy price savings cannot substitute for structural safety. Lesson: in high-risk industries, perceived value must rest on trust and safety, not cost-cutting. 2. Success case: Apple iPhone ecosystem. Technology. Context: first launched in 2007, entering a market dominated by Nokia, BlackBerry, and Motorola. Initial perceived value: more expensive than competitors but positioned as a premium device with superior user experience. Reality: after launch, Apple reinforced value by building an ecosystem: App Store, iCloud, regular updates, and global after-sales. Customers accepted higher prices because the experience extended beyond the device. Outcome: Apple captured global symbolic leadership. Customers became loyal to the ecosystem, not just the product. Lesson: by investing in branding, service, and symbolic authority, Apple transformed perceived value into long-term pricing power, escaping the commodity trap of phones as hardware. 3. Failure case: Kodak and digital cameras, photography. Context: Kodak invented the first digital camera in 1975, but chose not to pursue it aggressively, fearing cannibalization of its film business. Initial perceived value: the brand was trusted worldwide for film and print. Customers associated Kodak with memories and reliability. Reality: after market shift, competitors like Canon, Sony, and Nikon moved into digital cameras. Kodak relied on film pricing and brand nostalgia but failed to build perceived value in digital. Outcome: Kodak filed for bankruptcy in 2012. Lesson: perceived value cannot rest on past reputation alone. Without innovation and communication of new value, even iconic brands collapse. 4. Success case: Tesla Model S and Supercharger Network, automotive. Context: entered the EV market dominated by skepticism and range anxiety. Initial perceived value: expensive cars, marketed as luxury performance vehicles. Reality: after launch, Tesla combined functional value, such as longer range and acceleration, with infrastructure support through the Supercharger network and emotional symbolic value like climate leadership and visionary branding. Outcome: customers justified premium prices because Tesla offered not just a car, but an entire ecosystem of trust and convenience. Lesson: building symbolic leadership and infrastructure around a product transforms perception from expensive car to future-proof mobility. 5. Failure case: WeWork IPO collapse, business services. Context: marketed as a revolutionary tech company disrupting office real estate. Initial perceived value: branded as innovation-driven and community-focused more than just office rentals. Reality. After scrutiny, financials revealed unsustainable losses. Governance issues, particularly Adam Newman's leadership, destroyed credibility. Customers realized WeWork was essentially a landlord with inflated branding. Outcome. IPO canceled in 2019. Valuation dropped from $47 billion to under $10 billion. Massive restructuring followed. Lesson. Symbolic marketing without functional and financial substance collapses when tested by the market. BBIU synthesis Boeing 737 MAX and WeWork, failures from reducing value to cost and narrative without substance. Apple and Tesla, successes by layering functional, emotional, and symbolic value, justifying higher long-term pricing. Kodak, a cautionary tale of inaction, failure to evolve perceived value with changing realities. Core takeaway. Across industries, the companies that survive and thrive are those that continuously reinforce perceived value through trust, service, innovation, and symbolic leadership, rather than relying on price or legacy reputation.